Hey there! I've been wanting to do a video on vector synthesis for quite a long time, but I've had a lot of trouble coming up with a good way to explain it. And even if I were to shell out $5,000 for a vintage 1986 Prophet VS, there's still not much the interface does to help you understand what's going on. I would probably have to make some sort of animated diagram of the sound waves and sound timbre being manipulated between vectors and overtones, which is exactly what this does. So let's meet the Vector. It's obviously a digital synthesizer, but it's actually a ridiculously powerful digital synthesizer. It's running a custom Linux build on the same ARM Cortex chip used by the Raspberry Pi 3 and older Samsung Note phones, and it has 32-bit digital audio converters. All this here horsepower is what gives this puppy a total of 64 filters, 128 harmonic generators, 64 blenders, and 16 voice poly. There's also really high quality effects and reverb on it, and it has an entire touchscreen interface situation going on. So I'm gonna quit yapping and let the Vector speak for itself. Let's go. So this is the Vector Synth, and this is the default patch. And it probably looks pretty confusing, and it kind of is. So let's look under the hood and I'll try and explain how this works as best I can. So here we have filters and generators, and I'm gonna click prime slot here, and these are 4 different vectors. That's what I'm gonna call them, and it'll make sense why I'm calling them that soon. It's really important to click focus and be able to focus on each one of these vectors individually. So let's focus on one and listen to that. And we have the option of having it just be generator 1, generator 2, a blending of both generators, or a mix, or off. Okay, so I'm just gonna click Gen 1, and then I'm gonna click Gen 1 tune, and it could be the normal timbre, it could be half, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5. And then I can do the same thing with Gen 2 and Gen 2's tuning. So I'm gonna tune generator 1 to 1, and I'm gonna tune generator 2 to 1/3, and it'll probably sound a little bit gnarly. And that's pretty good. So I'm gonna click blend, and then I'm gonna go into blend mode, and we could choose between phase modulation, amplitude modulation, phase modulation and amplitude modulation, phase distortion and amplitude modulation, and then reversed phase distortion and amplitude modulation. Those are our options for each one of these vectors. Okay, now over here we have filters, and you can see we have 4 different filters up here that we could assign to these 4 different vectors, and we have a 12 decibel high pass filter, a 12 decibel band pass filter, a 12 decibel low pass filter, and a 24 decibel low pass filter. And if we click down on these filters, we could actually route them in a kind of matrix, which can get pretty advanced and pretty interesting pretty fast. Okay, before I do anything else, I'm going to click this little mixer icon here, and I'm going to change this from a polyphonic patch into a monophonic one. And then I'm going to add a bunch of voices into the stack. That sounds pretty amazing. Remember, this is just one generator too, and we haven't even done anything with it yet. And if I don't want to go through this with each and every vector, I can just hit focus and hit this little dice down here, which randomizes it until I get a sound that I like, and then I could work from there. Nice. We could also manually choose our overtone generators down here. And then the overtone blend. I'm gonna edit a little bit of attack and decay and release here. So I'm gonna hold down the focus button, and we will no longer be focusing, and everything will be selected at once. And I could click that little mixer icon again, and now we can turn up some reverb. All right, and back to our main screen. I'm gonna click this little 3-sided box here, and here are our vectors, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and here is attack, here is decay, here is sustain, and here is release. And let's see what happens. Now over here on the ADSR controls, I could choose between exponential or linear, which will change some of the timing and more advanced, longer envelopes. By selecting A and D, I'm selecting attack and decay, and now I'm actually going to warp that and make it a little wily. And I could warp these a little bit or a whole lot or whatever I want to do, really. I can make them really wide. All right, let's edit the reverb and make that nice and long. Bring in some chorus, not that much of it. Now let's hear this. And as long as we're not in focus mode or focusing on any of these vectors in particular, when we move the cutoff or resonance or overtone generator or overtone blend knobs, it kind of affects them all in a pretty awesome way. And now at this point, we could choose whether to hold a note or tap it really fast, and that'll actually change the direction that this envelope moves in. Okay, so this gets even crazier. We also have suborbit, which expands this little dot out into, I don't know, a bunch of ships, beads, I don't know what to call them, but we could change the size and the speed. So this is just our little envelope mode. We also have this figure 8 mode. And then we have a figure 12. We could turn the speed up here to 8 times the BPM. If I click this little dot that goes into the arrow here, then it puts it into a mode where every single time I have a key press, it will start from that position. If we go back into settings and turn on poly mode rather than the detuned mono stack, then this probably makes a pretty good pad. All right, so I have a bit of a hand pan sound here, and we're gonna go into Arpeggiator, which is up here, and we could turn that on, and here we go. I can move things like 1 octave up and 1 octave down, 2 octaves up. We could also click Humanize, which will change these as long as I enable these random things over here. I could also lock some, like if I want this to always stay the same. Now here's a trick that I didn't even know existed until I saw the video that red means recording made. If you're thinking about buying this or if you're on the fence, you should definitely watch that video because it's an incredibly deep dive with probably a different take than I had even because this is such a versatile synthesizer. Okay, so if I turn delay up and if I turn the delay time down to where it's longer, and if I turn the delay feedback all the way to, I don't know, 100%, which means that it will endlessly delay. Now we have a looper, and as long as this is blinking, if I click feed, it's blinking, I can do this. And then the arpeggiator is fed over that. And since what's captured in that delay is a recording, we could actually change the timbre of this synth now that's in the arpeggiator and make it sound drastically different. And then we have 2 different instruments playing at one time, which is incredibly versatile. That was nice, spontaneous, improvised, all the vector synth with no external effects or anything else other than this little MIDI controller, and I am thoroughly impressed. I am getting an NPC Live to act as a middleman between this key step and the vector so we can actually sequence this pad that I've made. So what do you think? I reckon it's a pretty powerful pony for its size and price. Actually, I don't know how much it is. How much is it? The Vector cost exactly 777 euro, or about $900 USD, or about 38 million Iranian rial, and it's currently in a new production run that will ship next month, or November of 2021 for those of you in the future. Like I mentioned earlier, I really don't see this being optimal for somebody's first synthesizer, but if you are a synthesizer enthusiast and you want vector synthesis in hardware form, this is probably the most powerful and least expensive way to accomplish that. One thing that I really love is finding hardware that seems to do things that I can't replicate in a DAW or a VST, and the Vector accomplished that a whole lot of times, particularly once we started making evolving pads. So yeah, I give it an okay.
A thumbs up.
If you like this video, subscribe to my channel. If you want access to a huge Discord community with everything from music making sessions to game servers, and if you want access to audio assets and unreleased music that you hear on this channel, then my Patreon is for you, and you can join our amazing community for as little as $1. All right, I'm out. Bye.